Travis, Nick, thank you very much for joining the show. I appreciate you making time for this. I know you guys got a lot of stuff going on. I see all those fancy gold and platinum records on your wall. So I appreciate you guys making time for little old me.
They're actually, Finn, they're completely fake, so you don't have to worry about them.
So I should get some. I should get some gold records to hang on my wall.
Dude, do you want me to send you these, man? They're like, I mean, they cost us nothing.
I'll take one. Why not? I'd be like, oh, that's Travis Mills. It's not mine, but I just thought it looked cool.
Yo, dude, Finn, I just want to say, man, I love the show. And when we found out that we were going to do this with you, I was so fucking excited. So thank you so much for having us, man.
Oh, cool. Same here. You know, I remember you from back when you were doing like Stupid Boy.
Oh, God.
You know,
okay.
You're
an OG, dude.
That's right. I said earlier, I'm guessing Travis probably isn't a fan of that stuff so much anymore, but I thought it was cool. It was fun.
Do you want to know what I equated to, man? I equated to like your 6th grade yearbook, right? Yeah. Like your yearbook photo in 6th grade. Like the night before you went to go take your yearbook photo, you laid your outfit, you laid your outfit out, you fucking ironed it, right? Like you felt fresh when you went to school that day. Then you look back on it and you're like, why did I wear the puka shell necklace? You know, why did I wear that t-shirt? Why did I have my hair like that? That's what I equated to. I don't hate those songs. They were, you know, obviously it got me here.
The songs are good.
Thanks, man. And a lot of people loved them. But yeah, I equate that to like looking at like your 6th grade yearbook photo.
Got it. Yeah. And Nick, you're involved in a few things. For anybody who's not familiar, can you introduce yourself and tell us what you have going on aside from Girlfriends?
Yeah, I mean, first and foremost, you know, drummer for Girlfriends. I've been having a lot of fun putting this project together over the last 2 years. But yeah, I somehow ended up talking with schools and districts 12 hours a day. I was the number one student who hated school probably the most out of anybody, probably more than even Travis. And somehow I end up talking to schools and school districts and students for the better parts of my days. And a company called Find Your Grind. That's a education ed tech startup. So we're all about helping kids discover more about who they want to be, where they want to go. We do that through the lens of just emerging careers and cool industries and just showing kids what the real world is like in a school environment, which is definitely lacking. So that's been really fun. And
I do want to ask you about that. I want to make sure we talk about Girlfriends first, but I do want to ask you about that because it sounds interesting.
Yeah, 100%. And then obviously our record label, Big Noise, that I started with John Feldman and my other friend, John Cohen, which we've had for about 4 years now and working with a bunch of great acts and a bunch of stuff, man. There's other things, but those are kind of the key focus areas for me right now.
Yeah. Well, so you guys both have a lot going on. What made you decide to do this project and like how serious is it for you guys?
I mean, for me, you know, I had taken like 3 or 4 years off from releasing music as a solo artist. And I really was focused on like writing and producing for other artists, which is a lot of what you see back there. And I found a lot of success in that, which was crazy because it was like, you know, me walking away from something for a little bit and kind of getting to approach it with like a new energy and a new love for it. And I started having success with like writing songs for other artists and, you know, watching that lead to record deals and them getting huge tours. And I was like, man, this is amazing. I was like, why am I not doing this for myself? Like, why did I even stop in the first place? And I was like, well, if I want to make music again, I know that I want to do it different than what I did. I didn't want to just kind of like reignite the same project. And Nick and I had been friends for years at that point. And it just so happened that like one day in December in 2019, he posted something about missing being on tour and wanting to be on tour and, you know, playing the drums and stuff. And I saw it on Instagram. I was driving and I literally like just picked up my phone after I saw that story and I called him. I was like, yo, I feel the exact same way. I've been wanting to start something new. I'd love to start a band, but I think we should do it a little different and just have it be us two. What do you think? And he was on board. And the reason why I love working with Nick is, you know, outside of Girlfriends, I feel like he's the only other person that I know that's just as busy as me and prioritizes the band because, you know, I don't want to be in a band with some dude that like sits on the couch all day and has no motivation. Like it means more to us that, yeah, we have all this other shit going on, but the band comes first, you know?
Got it. So this is like, this isn't like just something you do here and there when you have time. This is like a pretty serious priority for both of you.
Oh man, we have poured
1000%.
our hearts and souls, blood, sweat, and tears into this, and there's really no other way.
Got it. Well, I have to say, I really, really legitimately like this shit a lot. I think it's fantastic. Tattoo is my favorite song. It's like I play that all the time, like warming up for streams and stuff. It's really good.
Oh, dude, thank you, man.
Yeah, I love it. And what I like about it is that it's not super slick. Like it is, but it's not. You know what I mean? Like it's got a little bit of like rawness to it.
It definitely does. We made that song probably a little over a year ago, and it's definitely a song that is teasing where the second album is headed for sure, in terms of, the style and feel of what it is and how it sounds is definitely sounding like how this second album is going to be.
Yeah. So what were your kind of, I don't want to say like goals with this, but when you guys were like, yeah, cool, let's do something together, what was sort of the direction that you talked about, and has it changed at all from that?
I think for Nick and I, it's like, I'll speak for me. I feel like I'm an encyclopedia of the scene, right? Like this is something I grew up in. This is something I was a part of. Like this is something that I feel like I kind of just lived, my entire life. And so like watching, I don't know, artists come out who didn't really embody that, and were kind of faking the funk. Like, I think that was like a big kind of motivator for me personally, being like, name 3 songs. No, not saying that like I'm a gatekeeper or anything, but like, this is like the scene that I grew up in, and that like I really have a lot of love and respect for, and a lot of history in. And, it's the music that I started out making. I know it's the music that Nick started out making, and it's what made me want to be a musician in the first place. So I think there was definitely like a big nostalgia factor for me of like wanting to make the records that I wish I could listen to when I was 13.
Mm-hmm.
And it was really cool to kind of build this vessel with Nick and have this opportunity to do that with also like an incredible musician. Nick can play every single instrument. And then us like getting in with John Feldman, who, needs no introduction, like he's kind of shaped the records that changed my life growing up. So it was kind of a no-brainer in that sense.
How about you, Nick?
Yeah, I definitely am on the same page with all that. I grew up sneaking into Blink-182 shows when I was 10 years old, 11 years old at Irvine Verizon Amphitheater, and literally would go to the Verizon Amphitheater when no one was playing in the middle of the day and sit on the stage and imagine what it would be like to play in those scenarios. And ended up playing Weenie Roast when I was like 15 years old with the band that I was in down there, which was the coolest experience ever. And kind of, manifested some of those things to come true at a young age. But yeah, I think it's fun to see how a lot of this stuff has come around kind of full circle, 20 years ago in the early 2000s, when a lot of these bands were kind of coming onto the scene, and bands that guys like John Feldman and John Cohen, who I run my label with, were signing. And now to kind of see a little bit of this resurgence, I think it's awesome that we have this vessel, like Travis said, to be able to create music that speaks authentically, I think, to how he and I grew up. This isn't us faking it. This is literally, we got in the studio day one and started writing songs that felt and sounded like the songs that you're hearing on this first album, right out of the gate. And so, yeah, I think it just speaks to kind of who Travis and I are, and the energy that we carry with us through growing up in Southern California.
Well, you guys both mentioned this, and it's something that a lot of my viewers have talked about as well. And I don't want to, call out anyone or whatever, but it is kind of clear that there's some people who are kind of, hopping on the bandwagon of this sort of pop punk revival. And, I don't have a problem with that. Whatever, people should do what they want. But it is interesting to see, especially considering that, now a lot of the people doing that are the cool kids, that and it certainly wasn't for the cool kids, back in the day. What are your thoughts on that? It's something you both mentioned.
One, I think just in general, no matter, who's putting out the music, like I said, we're not gatekeepers, but I think it's amazing that guitar music is back, right? And it's at the forefront, because there was a long period of time where it wasn't, and it was almost like a forgotten art. So the fact that rock music is back kind of in everyone's face and it's making waves, I think is a beautiful thing. And look, at the end of the day, I think all pop means in terms of music is popular, you know, like people
Right.
are going to hop on to like when dubstep was big. I mean, Britney Spears made a dubstep song, you
Did
know,
she?
like,
I didn't remember that. That's funny.
dude, she made a dubstep song, and I forget who it was produced by, but yeah, it was like, you know, what the hell is going on? And
Right,
I feel
right.
like artists like that who don't really like have a foundation or like have a sense of like, you know, who they are, like they're gonna latch onto things, which is totally fine. But you know, the fans, like, they know what it is. Like, people are smart,
Yeah.
man. You know, like
Yeah.
the age of like kind of pulling one over people's heads is long gone, and you know, people can tell like what's authentic and what's not. And I think the
And I don't
music,
think it's an age thing because, you know, you've got people like Jaden who was not old enough to have been around for it the first time, but I think he does it really, really well. And it feels like really authentic to me. And then there's other people his age who, you know, it seems like it's a little bit more contrived. So to me, it's not about age.
I don't think it's a generational thing at all. Like, I mean, like you said, you know, there's people who you can see like genuinely have a love and a talent for it, and then there's people who really don't. And they're just kind of hopping on a trend, you know.
I mean, I would do it too. If I was young and good looking enough to be one of these cool TikTok pop punk kids, I would do it too.
Dude, if I could dance, I'd be all over TikTok.
Yeah, it's a different world. So you guys have chosen to do it as a duo. What made you kind of make that choice, and how does that affect the songwriting process and stuff?
I mean, I think when we initially talked about it, it was like, oh, is it just going to be us? And Trav was like, yeah, just you and I. It keeps things simple, keeps the business simple behind the band. We're not out touring, having to pay out 5 people in a band, and just thinking about it from a business perspective, but also from just like let's keep this clean. And you and I are the only ones that can make the decisions, and you and I are always going to come to each other for anything stylistically, creatively. It just makes it a simpler process. So why convoluted, I guess. So yeah, and you don't see, I didn't initially think that it would work, but it is an interesting twist on like what it means to be quote unquote a band today, right? Like
Yeah.
having it be a 2-piece, I think is just more of an interesting approach at it, where it's like, oh, it's 2 guys in a band called Girlfriends. You know, that's funny. That's cool.
Yeah,
That works.
tell me about the name, because I got you guys mixed up with Boyfriends a whole bunch at first.
Well, Nick and I mean, back in 2019, we're, you know, talking about starting the band. He was like, well, let's go to the studio and kind of like sit there and, you know, let's play some shit that inspires us, you know, where we kind of see the band going. And before I showed up at the studio, I had this list on my iPhone of band names, potential band names. It was like 5 names. Girlfriends was the very first one. It was at the top of the list. And so when I got to the studio and I sat down with Nick, I was like, yo, I got some names. You want to hear them? And he's like, yeah. And I was like, all right, Girlfriends. And he's like, that's it. And I was like, what? And he's like, that's the name. And I was like, I mean, it's my favorite. Obviously, it's at the top. I was like, you don't want to hear the other ones? He's like, no. And I was like, done. We had a band name before we had any songs.
Well, that's the way you got to do it. It's like how you do it when you're 14. You come up with like the
100%.
coolest
you
name, you
start
draw a
the band,
logo.
Yeah, 100%.
Exactly.
It helps craft the rest of it, how the music came together, like off of the name in a sense, you know?
It really
There's some
works.
weird thing about it. Yeah.
It just works. I don't know why. It just does work. And you know, how does it change the songwriting process just having 2 people involved? I mean, you guys obviously know Feldman and lots of other people that can assist as needed, but how do you kind of approach that?
I mean, I think Nick and I have a great dynamic in the studio, you know, like I said, he plays every instrument. I write all the lyrics and melodies, and it's really cool to have a trust in someone to where, like, I mean, we just got back from the studio today, and like we're finishing up a song on the album, and I was overthinking something, and he's like, yo, just, it's perfect, you know, like, stop doing, I need that sometimes. And you know, if I have a suggestion about, you know, the instrumentation, or Nick has, you know, like, we have these conversations, and I think the philosophy of when we're in the studio is the best idea always wins. Like, whatever's the best for the song is what happens. You know, it's not who thought of it, why we thought of it, you know, where it came from. It's what's going to serve the song the best.
Yeah, I think we've gotten really lucky. You know, I've been really just good at understanding how to put tracks together and put a vibe together for, you know, the foundation of a song. And Travis obviously is an incredible lyricist and great with melodies. And so it just works in a nice way.
Well, the reality is what maybe a lot of people don't know. Reality is in most bands, it's one or two people who kind of, drive the bus creatively anyway. So why not just cut out the middleman?
That was kind of our point. It's like we don't need 5 chefs in the kitchen. Like, we'll both kind
especially
of
if 3 or 4 of them never cook anything.
Exactly. You get it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, a lot of people, again, don't know this, but lots of times, the bassist in the band doesn't play on the records because the guitarist is better. So,
I mean, or you're a band like Fall Out Boy and the bassist writes all of the songs.
Or that. You never know. When I was young, I just naively thought, oh, well, everyone in the band has like equal input on every song and they all play all their parts. And in reality, that's not how it works.
Not at all.
And when you got 2 people that can do it all, why not just leave it at 2 people? Well, so what's kind of next for the band? I feel like things have been kind of leveling up, and it feels like this is sort of the start of kind of the next phase. Am I feeling the right thing?
I think you're right on the money, man. Like the next era is upon us. In just a few hours tonight at 9 p.m., we have 2 new songs off the new album dropping. So we have a song that we're dropping called High Again. And then another song called Toaster for a Swim. And it's off the new album. The new album's called Emotion Sickness. It's out everywhere on June 17th. And we've, like I said, put our blood, sweat, and tears into this thing. And we got to spend a lot of time and a lot of effort on these songs. And we're really excited for people to hear them.
So is it done, or were you working on something else in the studio today?
It's not done till it's out, man. So like, we're like tweaking little things, like adding vocals in certain parts and like fixing intros and like changing a snare sound. The songs are done. They're written. But like Nick and I, like we never stop recording. Like even when we were on tour last year, we brought a mobile rig and we were writing songs in the back of the bus. So like we're always.
Yeah, I think getting albums from 0 to 70% is easier, than getting an album from 70 to 90, but then the 95 to 100% is often the hardest part of like really thinking about how something starts from A and ends up at Z. And sometimes there are things in between that you want to change and fix and alter. And, we're talking about doing all that type of stuff right now where it's like the fine tuning of everything, which is pretty exciting. So yeah, we're excited, man. This next step up, this is definitely a big step up for us, the second album. Creatively, stylistically, sonically, everything. So it's definitely a next phase for Girlfriends. I feel like the first album was a great foundation for us and let people know that we were serious and a band, and here we are. And the second album is, going to be another good moment. So we're excited.
So a lot of people in sort of your genre now are really taking more of a singles first approach. And like maybe releasing an album here and there, but really it's about just putting out singles constantly. How do you guys kind of think about that? You seem like you're maybe a little bit more album oriented.
I think for sure. Like, Nick and I have kind of always said from day one, like we're an album band, like we want to make albums just like our favorite bands did when we were growing up, I don't know, it might be like my OCD or something. I don't want to be like a band where it's like, hey, 4-song EP, 5-song EP, then you get an album and it's a bunch of old songs that you've already heard before. Like we want to make statements with the bodies of work that we put out. And, we want to create like moments and eras and, have everything. We want to create worlds really. And like this whole world that we've created for Emotion Sickness is something that like I'm the most proud of out of anything that I've ever made in my whole career. I'm really excited. Like everything, like down from like, the music video concepts to, the art direction for the album to the single covers for the singles to the song titles, like everything is something that we put a lot of thought and effort into.
We're experimenting on this rollout of this second album of not doing individual singles. So like we're not doing the 2 singles into an album thing. And I think a part of that is just due to like attention and how fast things go culturally today and how fast things can be forgotten and kind of moved on with. Right. And so like we're experimenting right now with putting batches of 2 songs at a time out, which we just haven't seen done before. So instead of giving the fans 1 song, we give them 2 at a time, kind of every 6 weeks up to the album. So by the time the album's out, we want to have at least 6 songs from the album that have been out, not just 2 songs before the album. Right. So just to kind of give all the songs in the album more longevity. and a chance for people to kind of hear them and connect with them a little bit longer before the album comes out. So we're excited about that. Just trying to try new things.
Yeah. Well, tell me about the name of the album. I'm interested what that's all about.
The name of the album is Emotion Sickness, and there is a song on the album. There's a title track on the record called Emotion Sickness. For me, it was like trying to obviously talk about the whole like last 2 years of my life. Like I went through a really traumatic public breakup. I did a lot of soul searching. I was, battling depression and my anxiety, and there was highs and there was lows, and all of it kind of wrapped into, this relationship. And there were times when I'd walk in the studio and I'd be crying. There were times when we walk in laughing, and like every day was kind of like the start of like a different kind of therapy session, and like we kind of took it a day at a time. And yeah, man, it's fucking exhausting. But I think the thing that I'm very grateful for is that I have this outlet, to talk about like when I feel like shit or when I feel happy, and I get to write about it and like share my experiences. And so Emotion Sickness for me is just a song about like that culmination of like the last 2 years all kind of wrapped into one. And there's like a little play on words there. It's kind of like, I don't know, like a tongue-in-cheek nod, I guess, which is, I feel like the identity of the band, right? Like everything we do is kind of a nod to something, or, us being a little funny or silly. So,
Travis was really just trying to think of words that had the word emo in it and thought of emotion and then sickness after that.
Yeah.
We almost named the album Emoji Sickness, but Emotion was a little better.
I think you made the right call.
Thank you.
It is interesting to me how the audience, I don't know if you think of yourselves as pop punk, but I'll just use that word. It is interesting to me now how it seems like audiences are ready for a lot kind of, I guess I'll say like heavier lyrics than they were 15 or 20 years ago. You know what I mean?
I mean, I think we're at a point right now where it's really cool that we can be so open and honest and vulnerable through the music. Like, you started this whole conversation off with my old music project, my solo project. And, back then it wasn't like I wasn't dealing with all this stuff, like you just didn't talk about it. Right.
Right. Exactly. Everyone was always dealing with this stuff. It's just, and I'm just like, why didn't we talk about it?
It was just, kind of
Phases.
A taboo thing to talk about. Like people really weren't ready to have a conversation about mental health. And I'm so grateful now that, we could have a band like Girlfriends, and I can be honest about everything that I struggle with, and, have conversations with people that listen to the music and have empathy for people. Like, it's just, it's so much better and so much more fulfilling and like so much more authentic to who I am. And like, I think that's why
it helps the fans too, because again, they were always going through this stuff too, but they didn't know it. Everyone felt like they were alone. So to be able to talk openly about this stuff is just so much healthier to me.
Well, and that's another reason why I'm so proud of this music, right? Because I can stand on it. I'm saying, yo, this is me. This is who I am unapologetically. Like, I am not perfect. This isn't manicured. Like, I'm fucked up. I have flaws. I am human, just like you. And with that, that breeds connection. It brings community. And like, I think that's so important. I wish I had that when I was a teenager growing up. And, I found that through going to, punk rock shows and hardcore shows and like that alternative scene, that we kind of had to build ourselves.
Right. Yeah. Well, Nick, I wanted to, before I forget, I want to ask you about Find Your Grind, because the actual original concept for my channel was kind of talking about more like business stuff, about helping people kind of find a career, doing something that they were excited and passionate about, a lot of like creative kind of stuff. So this is a topic that I am very passionate about. I don't know much more about what you do other than what you said, but I'm interested to hear more.
I appreciate it, man. I mean, the concept initially started through my studio, my recording studio here in Los Angeles. I started to bring kids who didn't have the resources or access or exposure into what a career path in the music world looked like. on a quarterly basis, we would bring these kids through the studio space, and a light bulb kind of went off in my head to go, how can I start to do this across hundreds of emerging careers and exciting industries to thousands of kids? So I actually pitched a group called Jostens Renaissance that are heavily entrenched in the school system across the United States, and created
because that's the hard part, right? Is like getting into the schools.
Yeah. So I created a speaking tour for 18 months and lived in a tour bus and traveled around the entire country speaking to kids inside of schools about helping them start to think outside of the box about their trajectories and what their futures could look like, and start talking about kind of real world, what it's like in the real world, things that school aren't giving these kids. Let's spend 5 hours a day at these events, really talking about real life scenarios and bringing public figures in to speak, and changing kind of the mindset within the education system for a little bit. And that evolved into me thinking about, well, what's a product that can really help young people, having spent so much time speaking and being in front of kids literally on campuses for 18 months, and really seeing a lot of these anxieties and pressures to have to choose a direction early on from their parents and from their schools telling them what to do. And quite frankly, a lot of confusion with young people in terms of how much opportunity really is out there. But you also have a batch of kids that think that there's only 3 or 4 things they got to go do to be successful: the doctor, the engineer, the lawyer, which are all great and fine careers. But my whole objective was really just to kind of, it's not for everyone. And there's tons of opportunity out there. And so we created a product, which is really a digital curriculum that helps students through that process of kind of self-discovery, helping them develop kind of skills for the 21st century that are going to be important. And we have a lot of cool people and mentors that humanize the careers on our platform. These kind of a ton of video content that show what the day in the life of their career is like. So at the end of it, the perfect scenario for us is that a student feels kind of more confident in themselves and ready for the future on who they want to be and where they want to go. So it's a really cool company. And we're definitely trying to find ways in which we can incorporate Find Your Grind and all the girlfriend stuff that we do, and keep those two things synergistic where we can.
Got it. So you essentially took a lot of the same stuff you were talking about when you were doing the speaking tour, and said, hey, how do I scale that by putting it into like this digital format, and then, give it to the schools on a per student basis or something like that?
Yeah, correct. Yeah, we went to schools and districts to sell this product after the speaking tour. We developed, hundreds of thousands of emails and from teachers, and our pilot version of our curriculum got in over 1,200 schools in a little over a year and a half, which was awesome. And just been learning a lot about the education space, and there's a lot of flaws.
Hard because the K through 12 space is so fragmented. It's like it's not like you can do a deal at the national level and give it to everybody. You got to
100%
approach every school district and every school differently.
There's a lot of red tape, especially in K-12, in terms of how products get into the system. There's a lot of learning curve for new technologies for teachers that have to start learning all these new technologies from products, which is also kind of a barrier to entry. Long sales cycles to get products approved. It's a lot, but it's definitely worth it at the end of the day when you can help kids and make an impact in that space.
I mean, I wanted to give all the K through 12th graders tattoos, but for some reason they won't approve.
Maybe someday.
That. Yeah.
Well, we were talking about how the audiences now are more receptive to these kind of, emotional topics and stuff. It's also really cool to me to see how entrepreneurial kids are now, and just how fucking smart they are from such a young age. Like, I heard I think it was one of the D'Amelios or whatever, an interview with one of them, and I was like, holy shit, this girl is smart. Like, she is thinking 8 steps ahead of what she has even done now. And you hear their audience is 10th, 9th, 10th grade girls or whatever. These kids now are so much smarter than I was, in my 30s.
Yeah, kids are on it.
Yeah, man. And that goes back to my point of people aren't stupid anymore. What used to work 20 years ago, and just thinking the fans won't notice. They're just, they're simple. That it's dude, we are those people, all of us. You can't treat them like that. So it's a good thing.
Yeah, it's an authenticity world now. You have no choice but to be yourself, because that's the only thing that will work.
100%.
Which is not a bad place to be. All right. Well, I will let you guys go because I know you got plenty of other things to do, but I appreciate your time. Anything you want to plug or words of wisdom to leave the people with before I let you go?
Emotion Sickness, the new album by us, Girlfriends, available everywhere June 17th. High Again, Toaster for a Swim, come out tonight. Finn, I'm glad that I got to be on the show, man. By the way, you're a blue belt, yeah, in jiu-jitsu, I believe? Purple. No disrespect, dog. No disrespect.
How dare you?
I'm sorry. I'm white with a stripe. So
all right.
I'm coming, dude.
White belt is the most important belt.
No, man, thank you so much for the opportunity, brother. I really appreciate it. And congrats to you and the success. And yeah, man, I love watching the content. So the fact that we get to be a part of it, it means a lot.
Awesome. I appreciate it. And talk to you guys later.
Cool.
Thanks.
Take care.
Peace.